Huffington, a registered dietitian from the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension. So let's be real. Carbohydrates get a lot of bad press. We call them carbs, and people love to hate them. But the truth is, carbohydrates are one of the most important nutrients in our body, and we need them. They are our primary source of fuel and food for our brain. One of the reasons people talk so negatively about carbohydrates is because they get broken down into sugar, which is known as glucose. Let's pretend this is one glucose molecule right here. This is what your body needs for fuel. This is what your brain needs for food. It is our body's primary source of energy. We call it a monosaccharide, which sounds like a really technical term, but it simply means one mono sugar molecule saccharide. An example of a monosaccharide, or one sugar molecule, is fructose, the sugar that is found in fruit and fruit juices. When we put two food molecules together, we call this a disaccharide, or two sugar molecules. An example of a disaccharide would be a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule together, which makes sucrose, table sugar. Another example is maltose. In order for maltose to break down and be used by the body, it has to break apart. Energy is produced, and you end up with two glucose molecules ready to be used by the body. So why is glucose so important? Let's think about that for a second. Have you ever been in the hospital or seen someone with an IV drip? The IV drips glucose directly into their bloodstream to keep that person alive. The glucose is life-sustaining. What about when someone goes into diabetic shock? Well, they go into diabetic shock because their blood glucose levels have dropped too low. What they really need at this point is a carbohydrate in its simplest form to re-stimulate their system, such as a glucose gel tube. If I were to give a disaccharide, such as juice or fruit, to a person with dangerously low blood sugar, it would take longer for the body to break apart into two glucose molecules. The body isn't able to use the disaccharide as quickly as it would if it was given a monosaccharide. These monosaccharides and disaccharides, or one and two sugar molecule foods, are called simple sugars, such as those found in sugary drinks, candy, or soda. The last form of carbohydrates we want to talk about is a polysaccharide. Poly means many. Polysaccharides are many sugar molecules, which are known as complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates such as pasta, rice, cereal, bread, and whole grain versions of these products are especially important in our diet. When a complex carbohydrate breaks down, it actually produces energy in the process. Let's take a look at how this happens. As these food molecules break apart, energy is produced. As they are broken down even more, energy is produced. Energy is produced, and energy is produced. And after these sugar molecules completely break down, you should end up with a single glucose molecule. If you remember, this is the form of carbohydrate that our body is able to use for fuel. So, going back to our example of the person with really low blood sugar, while pasta would be a great source of fuel and would increase glucose in their blood, the process would take about 4 hours. Disaccharides and monosaccharides, such as sodas and other foods with added sugars, break down and are ready to be used quickly. However, many of the food molecules are not used and can be stored as excess energy in the body, which could potentially lead to weight gain. Whereas something like this, that might be the same amount of food molecules, has to break down piece by piece, which uses and produces more energy in the process. So we've just learned that carbohydrates are an important, life-sustaining nutrient. The key is to make these carbohydrates healthy. We can do this by choosing high fiber and whole grain sources because they contain more nutrients and help us feel satisfied longer. The bottom line is, carbohydrates are our friend, not our foe.